Mr. Toastmaster, ladies and gentlemen, the title of my speech tonight is My Best Friend, and it's project number 5 from the manual, which is to work with your bodily speaking in broad terms. So, how extraordinary, ladies and gentlemen, that the 2 previous speakers should talk about subjects that so closely align with the thinking process that it must be one of these things that, despite what Harrison had to say about the mind, that minds are out there connecting with one another, because I originally had something completely different I wanted to talk about and changed my mind. My best friend. I still remember with the utmost clarity the day in early 1985 I met my new and lifelong, I hope, best friend. I remember with utmost clarity the events that led to this and how it was like Saul on the way to Damascus, seeing the light and becoming St. Paul. It wasn't quite as dramatic as that, but nonetheless it was an enormously dramatic event in my life. Let me put that in context. Back in 1984, I was caught up in the helter-skelter, crazy, powerful, almost out of control investment banking world, which used to then be called merchant banking. And you all know, you've all read the stories of the investment bankers falling off the cliff in the most recent economic collapse. But a little bit like the mid-2000s, the 1980s was a period of extraordinary boom because the world had discovered that dropping barriers to international trade was a good idea, and allowing foreign competition to come in banks, not just in Australia but all around the world, was seen as, and I agree with them, a good idea. It fostered competition, it developed new ideas, the whole thing was forward, upward and onwards. And there I was, right in the middle of the rat race and loving it. Let me not lie to you, I was loving it. But one of the problems about that lifestyle then, and quite likely today, is that you get so caught up in working and being in the office at 7 in the morning and not leaving till midnight, you tend to forget about everything else in your life. Everything else pales into insignificance. The thrill of the deed. And that still lives with me today. And the institution for which I worked, which is now, or became, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Westpac Group, which is probably the worst thing it ever did in its life. It used to be independent, but the Westpac culture imposed itself. I don't know how the people at St. George must be feeling right now. But along came big Westpac. But in that process, one of the things that was decided was that we should have all of these mini MBA programs, so we were packed off for weeks at a time up to the Gold Coast, which we virtually never saw because it was work, 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 eat, work, 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 eat and drink, work, 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 eat and drink. There's a purpose for that anyway, surprising as it may seem. And when I came back from that mini MBA course of eat, work, eat, work, work, eat, drink, I could no longer shop at David Jones for suits, I had to go to Tent City. I ballooned a little. A lot. I was hugely overweight, and a lot of other people were too. And my best friend came back because we were invited as part of the acquisition by Westpac to join their corporate gym. Yes, corporate gym, free, blah blah. Went down and enrolled. And I was quite horrified by how little I was able to do and for how short a time. And how, when I climbed on the scales at the end of the day, it was a horrific sight. The thing of whang and went off the scale. They had to buy a new set of scales to weigh me. So I made a decision. This has to change. Quite simple. So I started going each day and doing the aerobics class, which was great fun until one day doing startups, those type of things. The weight I was carrying, we came down on the right angle, the thing rolled and over I went. I landed up on the floor and I couldn't move. So for a few days, I wasn't even ready to go to the gym. And when I went back, I was no longer able to wait there on the right ankle and do, the star jumps and run around. And we used to go up and down the stairs and 10-story building 15 times, which is very fun, especially for anyone who happened to be walking up and down the stairs instead of using the lift. And all these sweaty bodies, a bit like Dave mentioned, sweating up and down the stairs and throwing off lots of sweat, so the floor was slippery, and, you know, the rest of it. I wasn't able to do it. But the National Heart Foundation and Westpac had put together a little program where we were going to go out and raise sponsorship for the National Heart Foundation. All you had to do was ride the exercise bike as part of a 12-hour marathon for X period of time. You could nominate how much that period of time was, and you would then go back to your office and raise sponsorships, which I did. And being the sort of idiot that I am, the crazy that I am, I thought, I'm going to just do a 10-minute sprint on the exercise bike. I'm going to sign up and do an hour. He said, don't be ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing to do. I said, no, I'm going to do an hour. And I went back and told everyone in the office that all my colleagues were doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, so we're going to raise sponsorship. I'm going to do an hour. So instead of saying, just sponsor me and give money to the National Heart Foundation, I did it almost like a bet. I bet that I can, and I bet you think I can't. And of course, with the size that I was then, it was a pretty fair bet that they wouldn't have to cough. So I went down and I climbed on the exercise bike and started to train for this event. And I still remember it as if it happened yesterday. I made the hour, just collapsed at the end of it, but I raised something like $3,000 for the National Heart Foundation. In the process, I met my best friend. I realised that I could sit on this exercise bike, and eventually I built up to greater distances and endurance. And even today in the heat today, I did 90 minutes on the thing, and I did 90 minutes yesterday, and I did an hour or something the day before. And when I left investment banking in Australia and went up to live in Hong Kong for 4 years and work in investment management, which was even higher pressure, I stopped exercising for a few weeks while I settled in there, and of course the thing happened again. I had the tent city problem again, and I then forced myself to go out and buy an exercise bike. And I used to then, instead of 1 hour, I used to do 2 hours a day, every day in Hong Kong. I would get to bed at midnight from work and get up at 5 o'clock and do 2 hours. And you know what? Not only did we trim down the weight of it, not only did the heart and all the other parts of your body, which as you get older do tend to deteriorate if you don't look after them, but not only that, but this was the most unexpected benefit that I discovered from this whole process, was that I'd go to bed at midnight, shattered, worn out. I would hear the alarm clock go at 5 o'clock in the morning, go, oh, and my mind was anything but clear. It was like this fog had descended. Like the fabulous fogs you see in Shenzhen and Guangzhou in southern China, and now in Hong Kong as well, this fog had descended. And I would climb with the greatest reluctance onto my best friend's exercise bike. But by the end of the 2 hours, my mind was crystal clear. I planned out my day so that when I arrived in my office just before 9 o'clock, which is when we used to start in Hong Kong because we worked so late, my mind was crystal clear. I knew what I wanted to do, I knew the priority of tasks, and I was ready, I'd already thought through, and I hit the desk, run. And that best friend lives with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do nothing else to change your lives, the very point that David was making about exercise going to work, the point Harrison was making about how you control your mind, take aboard your life a best friend of regular, strong, powerful exercise which does make you sweat, does get up your heart rate and keeps it there for 30 or 40 minutes every single day. Your body will be better for it, and so will your mind.